Welcome to Straight Talk and Retirement. Your no-hype source for financial advice in making informed choices about your retirement planning. Get on the phone to talk today at 314-931-5877 or text your question to 84126.
The opinions voiced in this show are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, and financial advisor or tax advisor prior to investing. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice offered through Private Advisor Group, a registered investment advisor. Private Advisor Group and JBL Financial Services, Inc. are separate entities from LPL Financial.
Now, here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Erin Lapidus.
Well, hello, St. Louis, and welcome to Straight Talk on Retirement. You're live and local, St. Louis's favorite financial call-in show, and we're back to our normal hours.
Mm-hmm. No more early bird special, at least not for the time being.
Not until sometime in December. Obviously, we will update all of you on that. But back to 9 to 11. Thank God the yard sale is back as well. I'm Erin Lapidus, president of JBL Financial Services. I'm joined this week and every single week by my dad, Jeff Lapidus, and my husband, Robert Markham, who is a life insurance and fixed annuity sales specialist.
Good morning.
Good morning. We help our clients make smart choices about their money. The way we do that is by designing a game plan, a written step-by-step strategy, a real game plan with several goals in mind.
First is to preserve, protect, and prudently grow the assets our clients have taken their entire lifetimes to accumulate.
A second is to create an income stream they can rely on so they can do all the things they want to do in retirement.
And third is cost-effectively addressing their health care needs, like helping individuals enroll in Medicare and choosing the right plan to couple with their Medicare coverage.
And then when they're done enjoying their assets during their lifetime, we show them how to pass them on to the people they love, whether it's their spouses or children, grandchildren, churches, or charities, whoever it might be, without Uncle Sam or the tax courts taking a big bite out of their money. And as their wealth managers, Erin, Rob, and I watch their money every single day, make sure they're staying on track. And that's why they call us the retirement coaches. Good morning.
Good morning.
It's great to be here. We do want to remind everybody that all of our clients are folks like you. They're our listeners. They're 55 and older. They would like to retire, or they're already retired. And as Erin mentioned, our goal is to create a game plan for them so they can have a financially fun and successful retirement.
That's right. And there are many ways that you can keep in contact with us throughout the week, aside from our show on Saturday mornings. You can log onto our website, jblfinancial.com. In the upper right-hand corner, there's a Contact Us button. You can request a coaching session, financial, Medicare, or both. Or if you're looking for a Medicare review, because we are 2 weeks into open enrollment.
It's going by fast, but very busy.
That's right, and we have 1 week in October, 4 weeks in November, and 1 week in December, so that is 6 weeks left of open enrollment.
I feel like we've seen a lot of people so far, though.
Over 6 people a day, every day since October 1st.
That's a lot of people.
That's right, and continuing to see that many people every single day all the way through. So if you are still looking for an opportunity to have your Medicare coverage reviewed before December 7th, you can always give our office a call, 314-863-0008. Frank's dance card is getting very full, but we're going to accommodate everyone that calls, either with an in-office appointment or a phone call or maybe an email exchange. If you've just got a few questions, we can answer for you. You can also, on our website, click on the lower left-hand side of the screen where a pop-up box appears. It says sign up for our monthly newsletter. We call it the Coach's Corner, and this is the last Saturday of October because next week will be into November.
I was just putting together the new newsletter last week or this week.
Tune in next week to your updated newsletter. But this week for
the October 2024 newsletter, last week, we got some great articles there. First one being Vanishing Family Farms. There's been a decades-long consolidation in the U.S. agriculture industry that is slowly but surely squeezing out small family farms. And we got a great little infographic highlighting as much the biggest farms now control, with the biggest 2% of farms control almost half of the nation's farmland. I thought that was an interesting statistic.
That is kind of an interesting statistic.
And our next article, do you know your Medicare options? We're going to spend a lot of time on the back half of the second hour, on the back half of the show on those options. But I thought this was a great timely article, just giving you a great overview of original Medicare and its Medicare Advantage alternatives. Our next article, don't have a will yet, why not? You know, a will is a fundamental estate planning document. It's vital to ensuring that your wishes are executed properly. That said, 2/3 of people don't have this vital estate planning document drafted, signed, sealed, ready to go. And some of the reasons that they give,
suspect.
They sound good on the front end, but it's never going to sound good when, the I's haven't been dotted and the T's haven't been crossed, and here, a loved one is passed.
Right.
So they all sound good. Excuses, like everything else, they sound good on the front end. But, I mean, some of them, the family dynamics are complex. Well, they're always going to be complex.
Right.
They're never not going to be complex. Now isn't the right time. It's never going to be a right time.
Unfortunately, having to consider your own demise or potentially, when your health is in serious decline is never something people want to think about. But you certainly don't want to have to be making decisions in those moments. You'd rather make them when you have clear head and time to make informed decisions.
If nothing else, then your medical directive and durable power of attorney, everyone should have a will.
Absolutely.
And our last article, 2 tax-friendly retirement plans for the self-employed. And this article highlights solo 401ks and SEP IRAs. They're similar in almost every regard except for solo 401ks are obviously for business owners who have no employees, whereas SEP IRAs are for companies that have a small number of employees. And solo 401ks actually are permitted to make catch-up contributions, so the total amount you can sock away in a solo 401k is $76,500, whereas a SEP only allows you to put $69,000. But 2 great alternatives for the self-employed, and definitely an article you want to check out if you fall into those groups.
Thank you. We call it the Coach's Corner. You can access it by logging onto our website, jblfinancial.com. I almost left out, there will be one more way to keep in contact with us, specifically next week, Tuesday morn. I'll be on Great Day St. Louis again.
And it's a great day.
It will be a great day. We're going to chat about end-of-year tax planning.
Sounds like fun.
I don't want to give too much away. Wouldn't want to bore the watchers on Tuesday. So instead of tuning in, I guess, click on the TV.
And what time will you be on so our listeners know when to tune in?
I don't know how
you get there around 10, but they usually...
No, I get there around... Great Day St. Louis begins at 9 a.m. It's not early morning, but it is your wake-up call on the TV.
And it runs for how long, babe? 2 hours?
I think so. I'm usually in the beginning. I don't know how TV works. I just show up. They tell me where to go.
They don't put you in like the makeup chair and all that jazz?
For this particular, you get to come already beautifully prepared to walk on screen.
So if you just rolled out of bed, you're going on TV like you rolled out of bed?
We like to prepare, but yes, if I had the curlers still in, I don't think there's any. They do a little fluffing there for you to make sure you look nice. So it's a great setup, and it's nice. They're out. They're really just right across the street from the KTRS station at this point, so you no longer having to go downtown. Beautiful new building, very nice.
Radio, TV. Plan to do any podcasts? Total media dominance.
Cartoons, all kinds of things. Maybe we'll have a reality TV show one day.
It sounds like fun. Remind folks who are live and local. Our phone lines are open. We love to hear from you. 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the text line. We always have a lot of things on our mind. What's more important is what's on yours. So, again, give us a call, 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the text line, where you have questions about, wills, trusts, taxes, IRAs, You have Medicare questions, all good to do. We all good to know. We'd love to hear from you this morning. And I was going to say, while we're waiting for your phone calls and texts, why don't we get into our first topic of the day? I like to call this one, Can I Retire?
A top question.
Yes, it
at
is.
JBL Financial.
For many people, the only question.
Right.
You know, and a lot of times that question also is accompanied by the question is, are we rock stars?
Well, when they come to our office, that's always the question.
Exactly. And so we like to identify families as rock stars if they have a predictable income stream at retirement that'll permit them to keep their current lifestyle and deal with other financial needs for capital over their lifetimes. And what we have found out, didn't take very long, is that for every family that we work with, whether they're married, single, divorced, widowed, etc., they're all different and unique, but the math of becoming a retirement rock star, the algebra problem, as I have coined it over the years, it never changes. So the faces change, but the math never does. And for us, being your planners, your retirement coaches, helping you light the path to see that you're a rock star is really the fun part for us. And in many cases, there are folks that come in and they don't know if they're rock stars, but they do find out by the time they walk out that they are. And so why don't we talk about somebody we visited with last week?
Dave and Judy.
And Dave is 60 years old. He works for the city of St. Charles. Love it out there. His wife, Judy, is 63, and she's an administrative assistant in a large company in Florissant that manufactures airplanes for commercial and military uses. They have been great.
Well, you know, we're not allowed to say.
We can't name specific.
I would love to just say, oh, they work for Who's What's It, but, you know, Who's What's
It.
They might not like that.
Compliance doesn't like that.
Right.
I gotcha.
So, back to our story. Dave and Judy, they've been prolific savers and investors, and they've accumulated $800,000 in retirement assets and $160,000 in savings.
So when we sat down with Dave and Judy, our first question, and it's on our financial questionnaire that we send out to all of our prospective clients before they come in to see us, is how much are you spending every month? And Dave and Judy determined that they're spending about $4,500 a month. Now, that's after tax. So we need to gross that back up to reincorporate taxes because, unfortunately, that is an expense that we have to accommodate in retirement. So $4,500 a month increased by 20% gets us to $5,400 a month of income need.
Yes, and so then, really the algebra problem begins with how much are you spending?
Right. You know what? Maybe we should do a quick review for all. Maybe we have a few new listeners. If you're wondering to yourself, how did Judy and Dave determine how much they're spending every month? Or is there an easy way to do this? Maybe you want to follow along with our math this morning and, plug the numbers in for your algebra problem at home. There's a few easy ways to determine this. Some people have a very good handle. They know how much is going in, how much is coming in, how much is going out, down to the penny. Even the lattes at Starbucks, they have a line item for it. Others, I think the easy way to do this is your checking account or the money where your income is being deposited, is that staying consistent every month? Do you see a steady increase or are you seeing any depletion? If it's staying steady every month, that means everything that's coming in is going back out again. That's fine. That just means your net income is going to be what your spending is. And that's perfect because that means you're living within your means. If you find that that checking account or savings account is increasing, determine what that increase every month happens to be or what it is on average over the course of the year, and take your net income and subtract that number. Because we know in retirement we don't have to specifically save, but we certainly don't need to fund to an income goal that includes some additional savings. So let's just fund to what you're spending in retirement. So if you happen to be saving a little extra above and beyond your retirement plan savings, let's incorporate that by subtracting from your net income. And then if you notice that you're seeing a decline every month, well, that means you might be spending a little bit more than you're bringing in. That might be a question that you'd like us to address during a coaching session. Is it a protracted reason because you've got remodeling going on? Maybe you added a payment that you haven't incorporated into your budget yet, or are things going a little astray for you? And we can always talk about that during a coaching session too. So that's how we helped Dave and Judy really pinpoint what that expense what their expenses are every month is. Let's just take your net income, and they came up about $4,500 a month. We increased that for taxes by 20%, and that got us to our $5,400 a month number.
I think for the people out there that don't have all their spending, on a line item graph chart, I think the easiest way is, like you said, whatever's being deposited into your checking account, month to month. If there's any left over, you obviously know you're spending to capacity or a little under it or
Sure.
whatever the case is, but that would be your metrics. A very easy way of just quickly understanding where you are vis-a-vis your income and spending.
Right. So then we determined that
Judy's
Social Security is about $2,400 a month.
So that means that they're currently would be looking at a deficit right now of $3,000 a month, which is what their retirement income.
Wait, I'm sorry. Did we leave out a very important piece? Is Judy, in fact, retiring before Dave?
Well, sure, because why not? Judy's a couple years older, which is nice.
Well, this is news. All right. So when Judy and Dave came in, Judy was looking to retire first. That's
Yes.
great. So we're just trying to figure out, can Judy retire while she sends Dave back to the office every single day?
And that's assuming that Dave actually wants to go back.
Fair enough. So that means that if Dave is going back to the office, their deficit's about $3,000 per month.
Right, and that really was the question here, which is when can he retire? Can he retire because she already wants to be retired?
Gotcha.
And I think that the point we were trying to make a little earlier, didn't say it directly, but the planning algebra problem that we use is we are going to fund to 100% of our clients' after-tax spending because that's their life. We want to make sure that you're able to spend the same amount that you were the day after you retire as the day you did before you retire.
We've got a great text question. What inflation rate do you use for your next year's spending budget?
We do not use inflation in our budgeting. And the reason that we don't do that is because we go backwards. Our clients, and especially and we're going to talk about this in a moment with Dave and Judy, is we basically say to them they ought to be pulling a prudent rate of withdrawal, 4%, no more than that. And what happens is that we're going to set them up in a model which is based on the risk tolerance and investment model, which in most cases over a long period of time will earn more than that. Mm-hmm. And therefore what happens is that we're able to inflation adjust their income if needed. But curiously...
Not really all that curiously, I think.
Well, it isn't because we see it's only been happening for the last 600 clients.
Right.
Is that by funding to 100% of their after-tax spending and including a 20% tax rate, what we're able to do is create enough leeway, fluff, if you want to say, in their cash flow mm-hmm. so that they don't deal with inflation or they don't specifically need to have an increasing income every year.
And I think we have found, especially during the last several years where we have experienced a significant inflationary period, that our clients are not coming back and asking for increases to their monthly income needs. Always have clients that we discuss home remodels, new cars, extra expenses over time, incorporating those. However, for monthly income needs, what we found is that if we are able to fund, like you said, Dad, to 100% of your after-tax spending, adjust that for inflation, you've already built buffers into that. We've already built buffers into that. One with the tax rate that's a little bit above where we see most people in retirement. But also we are not factoring in the costs of going to work because we just assume that you'll reabsorb that back into your budget, which also creates an additional buffer for you. And the other thing is that for individuals that are able to retire, they tend to live within their means, and they have done so for a very long period of time. when you sat down with your employer while you were working during your review and it was time to discuss raises, I rarely did people say, well, I'm going to need the raise that also incorporates inflation into my pay increase year over year. Many people have gone multiple years without pay increases, but they don't naturally just continue to increase their spending based on what inflation is. And then the final thing I would say is that although we see these very big numbers coming out in terms of the adjustment of prices of things, people aren't buying everything every day. So we saw a huge increase in the cost of cars, even in the used car market, but you're not buying a new or used car every month, every year. So although those things have increased in price, not everything is increasing at the same rate. And as someone that lives within their means, most people make the decision to make alternative choices when things have risen to the point where they're no longer in their budget, or they feel they're no longer in their budget.
I also feel that our models have been stress tested in a way. I mean, prior to the rally that we're in currently, I mean, we were in a multi-year drawdown with inflation and didn't have to send anyone back to work, didn't have to send anyone any more money. Right. So, I mean, we know that the models work. The only thing that can tip over the apple cart is your withdrawal rate.
Well, we know that they have worked in the past.
Yes, and we're hopeful and truthfully confident that they will in the future, just because we've got 20 years worth of experience in doing this.
Right.
And I would say that, again, our approach is a little different than what you get over the internet, what you're getting from the calculators, which are all based upon current your gross income. But in reality, you know what your paycheck looks like.
Right.
Most people don't bring home any more than 60% of their current pay.
Right.
Because of taxes, insurance premiums, et cetera, et cetera.
Also, you're making withholdings to
your retirement
into your retirement account. Exactly.
Right. So
a lot of pulls on their income.
Yeah. So if we fund to what your current lifestyle is, we find that folks don't have an issue. And just to add, one other thing into this, the first question that we ask our clients during at least I do, during every single coaching session:
how's the money?
How's the money?
First question.
How's the money? How's our cash flow going? Are we covering, et cetera? And I have not had a client ask for a raise in 20 years.
The cool thing is, over an extended period of time, we've noticed that many of our clients start to say, hey, I'm starting to accumulate savings, which is great. We want everyone to, even before you begin investing, is to have that vault or that emergency fund that needs to be maintained over the course of your investing career. So even as you're retired, you want to maintain an emergency fund where that you can easily access, that's not subject to market volatility. But
we have to remind them sometimes we are open to take more money.
And not only that, if we're sending money from your retirement account, why don't we just leave it in there? Because if we're sending it to you and you're in the 12, even 15% tax bracket, we're pulling it out at 12 or 15%. And even in some of the best money market accounts out there, you're earning between 4 and 5%. We can't you're not making that difference up by holding it in the savings account. So if you find that you're receiving distributions and every month you're putting aside a few $100s or even more, maybe it's time to say, hey, let's turn that down a little bit. It can always be readjusted again, but no reason to pay taxes on money that you're not going to consume, and even more so, no reason to pay taxes on money that's just moving into an account that's going to naturally, you're at a deficit to start of 12 to 15%.
You mean paying taxes like 15% only to earn 5% on the other side is not a good deal?
Well, again, as I like to at least put it with my clients, is that if the cup is runneth over when it comes to your emergency fund, there may be even reasons where you reduced it and then you're refilling
it back up again.
That's cool. But once it's full and you're comfortable, guess what? Now we can talk about after-tax savings, or more importantly, we can always turn the faucet down to save taxes, because it never. I guess that is number one, right?
Right.
Never pay taxes on money you're not consuming. Just never do that.
I actually believe dadism number one is cleaning is not stacking, or stacking is not cleaning.
Well, that's definitely one for my favorite oldest prodigal daughter. No question about that.
Yeah. Oh, so you know what? Let's do a quick review of Dave and Judy, so we can kind of wrap up where we left them off, which was, Dave 60 wants to retire. Judy 63 is going to retire. We figured out that they're spending about $4,500 a month. When we increase that for taxes, we get $5,400 a month. If we subtract Judy's Social Security benefit, which she's eligible for now, at $2,400 a month, that means they'll be short about $3,000 a month, which is $36,000 a year. And we're still a few years away from when Dave will be eligible to take his Social Security benefit if, of course, Judy lets him retire early.
Right. And if we try to figure out what is the milk money, how much capital do they need to develop this $36,000 per year cash flow, we basically take that $36,000, we divide it by 4%, and that tells us we need $900,000. But that's not. They're pretty close, but in fact, they're really rock stars. So let's talk about why.
Okay.
We know that whether Dave continues to work or not, what happens is that we have 2 years till Social Security, but we'll need to fund for that full $36,000 for at least 2 years,
right?
Which is approximately $72,000. At that point, we know that his Social Security benefit will be approximately $1,800 a month. So they needed $3,000, but now we've got $1,800 a month coming in from his Social Security. We now only need $1,200 per month, or about $14,400 per year, for them to maintain their lifestyle. When we redo the math on that, guess what? That comes down to $360,000. So we went from $900 to $360.
Almost two-thirds.
Right. And that's because of the Social Security income.
So they went from really not having much buffer, only about $60,000 of buffer, to really having almost two-thirds of their capital that they have saved over time becoming buffer for them.
And the magical bridge, so it seems, is just a self-funding for the 2 years until Dave reaches that magical moment where he can elect his Social Security benefits, and we just add that 72 back into the milk money, and they're set.
It's great.
Exactly. So, in total, they really needed about $432,000 of capital to deal with both of those issues. They had certainly significantly more than that, about $960,000. So, woohoo!
That's right. That's fantastic.
We love that.
Well,
again, our phone lines are open. We'd love to hear from you, 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the text line.
And we've got a couple of texts that we're going to get to on the other side of this break. But for right now, don't touch that dial, because we're going to be back with more Straight Talk on Retirement after these messages.
Let's talk about smart choices for your money. It's Straight Talk on Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Erin Lapidus.
Well, welcome back to Straight Talk on Retirement here on the Big 550 KTRS. It's 9:36. We're about halfway through hour number one. Here to answer your phone calls and your texts at 314-931-5877 and 84126 from the currently starting to fill up text line.
That's right. And we've got Rosalind on the line. She has been holding through the break. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for giving us a call. What is your question today?
Oh my gosh, I didn't think I'd get through so fast. Just through the break. That's all. That's all I had to hold for. So anyway, my question is, it's kind of okay. So I'm a stay-at-home wife, and we will be getting in contact with you guys about coaching for our retirement. My husband works for one of the major airlines and has been there for over 25 years now.
Fabulous.
And so, but one of my questions is the whole property fraud alert thing. Is it possible that we own our own home? I always say, no, we don't own it because it's not paid for.
Because the bank still has a part of it. Gotcha.
That's right. And even after you paid for it, you still owe taxes on it. So really, do you own it?
That is a great question.
Yeah. So my question is, and sometimes I have this fear, even wake up at night, can someone, this whole property fraud alert thing, can someone buy our home from underneath us. We have a mortgage, but, if somebody makes they're billionaires, is there any way that they can come in and buy your home even though you have a deed on your home? Can someone take your home from you, then therefore cause you to have to move out of your home, which you haven't even paid for yet, to be homeless / now you have to go find somewhere to rent?
Well, two things I like to mention here. Number one is I love your pragmatic approach because I happen to agree that especially with home ownership, which is the bank owns your property, or if you want to try to get money out of it, you have to borrow money. It's not really yours. But in terms of your second question about someone being able to take possession of your home, that's something that I think shows up in the Wild West movies, but really isn't possible.
Right. In the scenario that so there has been a lot of fraud, which is people trying to change the deeds, like you're mentioning, without consent, which is a little bit different than what you mentioned, like somebody coming in and like one of those big hedge funds coming in and buying up all these houses. They cannot come and buy your home from you without your consent. Like you would have to sell them your house because although the bank owns a portion of the home, your name is on the deed with the bank.
Yes.
So you have to agree to the sale. Now, obviously, eminent domain where the government comes in and says we are going to come and buy these homes, you're a part of that. It's not all of a sudden, they're like, "Good morning, Rosalind. Not such a great morning for you. Time to get out of the house," or anything like that.
Right.
But my mom did mention. Let me go back into. Now, this is not official.
I'd also like to mention something else. Is that generally when property changes hands, you're involved with a title company, and that title company is doing a title search. And so what happens is they actually are in a situation where they're taking legal liability for their actions. Yes. And so if someone was actually to try to do, I don't know, you see these commercials on TV, which to me I wouldn't even consider buying that type of stuff. They would have some liability in the situation. So I think you have some good protection, but nobody can really come in and buy your home out from you. And then,
so in order to protect yourself against fraud, you can log on to propertyfraudalert.com.
Okay.
And and all it is a property monitoring service. So if someone is attempting to change the deed, you're going to be notified of that. Okay. So that would protect you against the fraud portion of, or it would alert you against fraud. The website doesn't actually create any protections for you, but just the knowledge that someone's either pulled your deed like they would like to see it, or they're attempting a change to it, you would be notified there.
So you do recommend Property Fraud Alert?
Oh, absolutely. I would definitely take advantage. All the ways that people are able to collect your personal information at this point, any service that is going to help you monitor your property, your financial situation, your taxes is going to be helpful for you. Not all of the now, there are other services that will protect you, meaning they lock your credit so you can't, people cannot try to, put credit cards in your name or things like that. But this one is a monitoring service, so it's just going to give you the heads up that something's going on.
That was a very good question, and we do appreciate your calling.
Yes,
I was going to mention that I recently sold my home in California, and what they did was they actually we had to provide identification that we were actually own the home,
right?
To the title. I mean, we had to show that we had to give them driver's licenses, they did credit reports, etc. So I think there's a lot of this fraud alert. I think is really good. There's protections here for you, but the fraud alert is really that's something that's good, and so. Appreciate that.
Okay, good.
And thank again for your call.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for calling.
Thanks for all you do. Bye-bye.
Oh, that was great. And let's go to our first text question. Please explain the makeup option in solo 401ks. It's not a makeup, it's a catch-up. And what this provision allows you to do for participants that are on the right side of 50, meaning 50 or older, they get to make a contribution up to $7,000 above and beyond what they normally allow. So right now the contribution limits on a 401k are $23,300. With the catch-up provision for those, again, participants that are over 50, they get to make up to $7,000 in additional contribution. It's a nice little provision they put in there because, a lot of people feel as as they get on the right side of 50 that they just kind of fell behind. And so this is a nice little provision of allowing you to sock away a little bit more money in your 401k. Actually, not a little bit more, almost 30% more.
And also that means as your pay is rising, you're able to take those extra deductions. Those numbers are true for solo 401k. So if you are a sole proprietor of a business and have a solo 401k set up, or if you are a current participant through an employer with a 401k plan, that $23,300 is true of current contributions. And if you're over 50, you get to add $7,000 to that if you'd like.
All right. And our next texter writes, I listen every Saturday and met with you a year ago about a family member. You talk about health insurance, but is life insurance something to consider during retirement? Absolutely. We are meeting with clients every day of every week, and we're either talking about how do we repurpose life insurance policies that you already have for new obligations, or we could be talking about adding a little bit of life insurance to supplement what you already have for a new purpose. The Secure Act 2.0 has been, as my father-in-law likes to say, a complete game changer in how we look at estate planning, because it forces a lot of IRA beneficiaries to empty out those accounts in 10 years. And in a lot of cases, these accounts are quite sizable, and that's going to leave the beneficiary with a quite sizable tax bill. And, a lot of people don't feel right about handing off their assets not in full. And life insurance is a great way of getting Uncle Sam their money and getting your beneficiaries your money.
And I would also say that the nice thing about working with individuals where they are right now, getting ready to retire, already retired, like Rob said, many people already come to us with a version of life insurance. Either they've purchased contracts over time that are permanent, which means they get to keep them as long as they're paying their premiums or the premium payment is being met, or maybe they are holding term insurance, so they had a short-term obligation, many times matching that up potentially with a home mortgage or with the birth of children, and they have a term on their contract, 15, 20 years. We're often discussing how do we use those contracts? Do we keep those contracts? And then one final thing, which many people don't think about, is if you are currently working, you may already have access to some life insurance through your employer. It may be voluntary or involuntary. Maybe you're paying for it, or maybe it's already just being provided to you. We always want to discuss that, especially as individuals approach retirement, because you do have the opportunity to take that with you. So there are many points of conversation to have around life insurance, not only as we approach retirement, but like Rob said, while you're in retirement, and we are now focused on estate planning.
Yes, really, obviously some very good points. And I would suggest as a baby boomer, because I'm in the middle of this, we're the first generation that's actually accumulated or have been in a position to accumulate significant amounts of wealth through retirement savings. Not expected, and it's about capital. I mean, life insurance can be capital for many purposes at someone's death, and creating an estate for someone else, helping pay taxes that are due, dealing with obligations. The traditional reasons for purchasing life insurance when you're younger, which is to create capital to replace that breadwinner's income, they do change in retirement. And so, as Rob said, we are having discussions with these. And what's kind of cool is when you're a rock star and you have more cash flow or capital than is required, we really can take a look at, is it possible and is it desirable to increase the size of our estate for our grandchildren, for our children, to pay taxes, for possibly charitable purposes? Lots of reasons when you have the money. And what's neat is all of our clients have the money.
Favorite situations of those rock stars that have RMDs that they have absolutely no purpose for. And, now you can just, with life insurance, you can put your thumb on the scale for, your grandkids in a way that is, it's really immeasurable because, as my father-in-law likes to say, the United States is about money. And money means options. And the more options you have, the more potential great outcomes you can have. So it's it's a vital tool, and it's definitely a subject of conversation with all of our clients.
And with that, why don't we take our second break of this hour? We have a few more text questions to get to, and that's what we will do before we get to 10 a.m. So don't touch that dial. We'll be right back.
Now, back to Straight Talk on Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are Jeff and Erin Lapidus.
Welcome back to the show. We've got about 10 minutes left in hour number one. Of course, hour number two will be focusing in on Medicare, as we like to do, but we do have some folks that are on the text line. As a reminder, our phone lines are open. We'd love to hear from you, 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the text line.
So, the election isn't all that far away, if everyone didn't know.
No.
Yeah, it's coming up, apparently.
Really?
2 weeks, they say.
9 days.
So we have a text. And I'll say that I want to use the gist of the text because I think we should stay, away from politics, just focus on, what our thoughts are after the election. So essentially, Dad, I'll let you kick this one off. Question is, depending upon who is elected, I'm concerned, or I have heard that money managers are concerned enough to go to all cash and gold.
No.
Even if it was heard on, No.
And, the thing about hedge fund managers appearing on TV, it's not like they don't have an ulterior motive to, I'm getting right out of stock. Like, are you really? Do you have giant short positions that, nobody knows about? It's very...
like the Bill Ackman deal.
Yeah, it's very self-serving when these guys go on TV and, they preach doom and gloom and, they don't have to provide, well, are you taking out, contracts on the other side of this? Is there a financial motive that you have to, put this out into the atmosphere right now? So, you have to take what you see. TV is, as I like to say,
entertainment.
It's not real. And so you have to always, it's on TV. I can't give it, total credibility because it's on TV.
And I would like to say, and I see, Dad, that you're already looking at it right now. We've seen, of course, many people have these similar concerns, having seen what hedge fund managers think about the situation or not. As citizens of this country, the election weighs on us heavily for many reasons, but I think that it weighs on the market far less than we think. So I know you got a few statistics in there, Dad.
Yes, and this is something that we were received from American Funds.
So a large
second largest money manager.
Mutual fund company. They released interesting information for us to provide to all of you. It's also available on their website as well.
U.S. stocks have trended up regardless of whether a Republican or Democrat won the White House, which is good to know. And second thing is that primary season tends to be volatile, but markets have bounced back strongly afterwards. On average, stocks have returned 11.3% in 12 months following primaries, compared to 5.7% in similar periods of non-election years, which means don't run away.
I'll reveal something about ourselves, which is that Rob and I really like elections. It's like the Super Bowl to watch a presidential election. It's an entertaining time, regardless of what side you're on. And we've spent the last few days watching election coverage of yesteryear.
2016 is my personal favorite.
We happened to tune into the 2016 Trump-Clinton election, and I'm sure many of you remember this election night, but you might have forgotten this particular piece, which was that when they called Florida for Trump and the writing was being written on the wall.
They weren't quite crying down at Clinton headquarters, but it was close.
The market.
The stock futures,
yes.
Thank you, Dad, were off over 700, almost 1,000. And now those numbers seem kind of small that we're looking at them, in 2024.
But they came back before the markets opened that
Not only did they come back, but that was a significant drawdown. People were, commentators were making mention of it. But by morning, when the markets opened, things had settled back down again. And I think that is reflective in both directions over multiple elections because, as you say, Dad, the market's based on expectations, but the reality of governing is quite different. So when things settle back down and when we know what the outcome is, that's going to give us not only clarity, but it will give consistency to the market because they'll be able to look forward and say, we know this will be the new administration for the next 4 years. Next thing, I just wanted to point out, we were having that life insurance conversation, and one of our listeners mentioned that we also have helped clients, and we do this on a regular basis, when spouses pass away or other loved ones pass away and our clients need assistance in filling out claim forms for life insurance or really explaining what options are in terms of life insurance and other financial instruments that your loved ones may have held. Not only filling the paperwork out so you're able to receive what you're entitled to as quickly as possible, but making sure it's filled out correctly and giving you some options and let you know what the taxation is. That's also part of the conversations that we have around life insurance. They're just the last conversation, so to speak, because we're just wrapping things up that we either put in place or you put in place a long time before you met us.
Absolutely.
And our next texter writes, my mother is in a nursing facility. She is currently spending down her cash reserve. When she has spent her reserve down and she goes on Medicaid, will they require her home to be sold? And if not, will they require a payback in the end?
So, first things first is you are able to maintain a residence as you are in Medicaid. So, the spend down is going to be essentially liquid assets. If there was a second home, other property, those would need to be sold or incorporated into the spend down. One home and one vehicle are allowed to be maintained. Missouri is a state where they do not come back to the family to recoup expenses in Medicaid. There are states that may rely on family members to come back, but Missouri doesn't happen to be one of those states.
And I would just add here that Medicaid just doesn't happen. Eligibility, you need to apply for it. It's not an easy process, and I would say to our texter, if they already haven't considered this, they should be really looking at engaging a elder attorney.
Yes.
To help them through this process, because spend down doesn't mean you spend 100% of your assets down.
Absolutely. And also there's applications to fill out. Many times they can be complicated and need to be resubmitted. So you absolutely want to make sure that you've got a little professional expertise backing you up in those situations.
And our last text before our Medicare hour. The market is doing wonderful right now. It has reached record highs. How come no one speaks of that? Welcome to my world, sir. We've been on a nice tear for over 20 months now. I don't buy into any of the fear-mongering regarding the election because she's the vice president right now, and Biden is the president, and this is what, as you say, the market is at record highs right now. So there is a giant disconnect between the politics and the markets. If you invest by the news cycle, you're going to always be disappointed.
That's a good point.
Well, and the other thing is we're really not permitted to discuss this in any great detail.
Well, certainly. Well, we're not political experts.
No, but we are experts when it comes to talking about retirement planning, right?
That's right.
And you can always give us a call at 314-863-0008. Again, 314-863-0008 if you'd like a coaching session for either Medicare or retirement planning, or both. And do us a favor, don't touch that dial. We'll be right for hour number 2.
Let's talk about smart choices for your money. It's Straight Talk and Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Erin Lapidus.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Straight Talk on Retirement. And as always, we kick off our second hour of the show with our Smart Choices About Your Healthcare segment.
Because you care. We talk Medicare.
I know we do have a great story about somebody that came in to see us last week, but people have already prepared text questions for Frank. They know what time it is. Frank's not in this morning. We had to give him a break. We basically chained him to his desk since October 1st. He will be back next week. We're going to fill in for him, but let's get to these text questions.
And our first one. Is Kelly in the office this morning? I need to change my appointment date with Fabulous Frank. Unfortunately, she is not there because the office is closed. However,
However, what I would suggest, if you don't mind, since we'll probably be in the office later today, send me an email, Erin@jblfinancial.com, because Frank's schedule is filling up so quickly. First, I'd like to be able to give someone your appointment date when we move you. And secondly, we want to make sure we can get you in to a time that works for you, since we only have a few left. So again, please send me an email, Erin, ERIN, @jblfinancial.com. You'll probably hear back from me today, most likely with a phone call, so we can pick a day and time that works best for you.
And our next texter writes, "Good morning, Erin. My 97-year-old mother just received a new Medicare number in the mail on Thursday. She said the letter was issued due to a security breach. She is with Aetna Gold Advantage. Is there anything we need to do after receiving the new number? Thank you."
So, no, there is nothing that you need to do. What will happen is Medicare is going to automatically update Aetna with a feed that lets them know that mom's number has changed. But if you were planning on helping mom make a change to her plan this year, or she was planning on making a change on the new application for 2025, please make sure that you put the new number that you received, because it could just slow the enrollment process down. So Medicare and all of the insurance companies, Aetna, United, Humana, all of the Medicare plans are going to do their absolute best to be able to say, okay, this number was now mapped to a new number, but the system's not perfect, so the easiest way to make sure your application goes through with no issues is make sure to put the new number, not the old number, on. But if no changes for the year, then no need to worry.
And our next texter writes, "Question for Frank: Does United Health Medicare pay anything if you see a dentist out of network?" They do, but you will pay more going out of network, and I believe the reimbursement is 50%.
Right, so they've moved to a PPO-style dental plan, and that means if you use in-network dentists, you get preferred pricing. If you use out-of-network, you'll still be able to see them, and they should still pay. It won't be a reimbursement policy this year, which is nice. You'll show the card at the dentist's office, and hopefully they'll reduce your bill by what the benefit that you are entitled to is, so you don't have to pay everything up front.
All right, and I think we've beaten down the text into compliance for the moment, but I know you guys out there are going to have more on the way. And with that,
so don't hesitate. Please send us a text, 84126 on the text line, or give us a call, 314-931-5877.
And with that, I think maybe we should talk a little bit about Lisa.
All right.
Lisa came in for a Medicare review with Frank last week. She'd been a Medicare client since she retired at the end of 2019. She elected a Medicare supplement through Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield. At the time she elected her Medicare Plan G supplement, the premium was $190 a month. To create comprehensive coverage for Lisa, she also had to elect a standalone drug plan through WellCare at an additional monthly premium of $22.10. Her annualized costs for the Plan G supplement and prescription drug plan was $2,545.20.
So Lisa had been generally happy with her coverage. She noticed the premium going up from year to year. It slowly increased, but not really at an alarming rate in her opinion. Her new premium for next year is going to be about $225 a month. So from $190 5 years ago to $225, we're looking at about a 20% increase over a 5-year period.
And Lisa decided to come in for a review this year because she'd heard about all the upcoming changes to Medicare in 2025. And, you know, our annual client email and notice some of the benefits available with Medicare Advantage.
Right. And so the nice thing is her Plan G is not going to change if she decides to stay there. The supplemental plans are federally standardized across the board. So what that means is regardless of where you've purchased or who you've purchased your supplement from, if it's the same plan, so like a Plan G, it's going to be the same. The only difference that people see with supplements is when the Medicare Part B premium change, the Medicare Part B deductible changes from year to year. That that's set by Congress and that will automatically flow through to supplemental plans that do not cover the Part B deductible. So, for example, you might pay a little bit more up front. That's the only thing that's going to change about the supplement. There are no networks, so you don't have to worry about network negotiations, who is in or out, anything like that. That'll stay essentially the same. And with her WellCare plan, Lisa's prescriptions hadn't changed all that much. She was still taking generally the same things, so her plan was going to be consistent from year to year. But basically what happened was Frank wanted to run the numbers for Lisa looking back the last 5 years because she had mentioned to Kelly that she wanted to hear a little bit about Medicare Advantage. So instead of just presenting the Medicare Advantage options to Lisa, Frank said, why don't we pretend like you had been on your Medicare Advantage plan since the day you elected Medicare until today, and what would those prices look like? So we can not only get an idea of what you're going to pay upcoming, but what you would have paid in the past to see if this is a good fit for you. And
that was really smart of Frank, in my opinion, because, running the numbers backwards, and in Lisa's case, she spent no less than $12,726 in Medicare supplement and prescription drug premiums alone. I mean, that's a pretty high number in the grand scheme of things.
Nearly $13,000 over the last 5 years. So Frank said, Lisa, just tell me a little bit about what's been going on the last 5 years. Have you been to the doctor? Have you had any hospitalizations, labs, x-rays, physical therapy? Just give me an idea of what's been going on.
She went to her primary about twice a year over the last 5. She saw her specialists, 3 specialists, usually about once a year, and she did have some physical therapy for a back issue a few years back. She overdid it with the yard work, as most people do, but she is fully recovered now. So her Medicare usage has been, I would say, pretty underwhelming in the grand scheme of things.
Pretty much average.
Right. Just going to your specialist, going to see your primary once a year, your checkups and things like that. Ran into a little issue with physical therapy, nothing completely outside the 40-yard lines at all.
Right. So Frank said, okay, let's use the numbers from this year. Let's just say that, you did all this on the plan benefits that are going to be available in 2025. So visits to the primary. Well, first of all, premium.
Annual premium. Let's start with the big elephant in the room. Zero
premium now, for Medicare Advantage.
Let me just add a caveat to that. Everybody pays their Part B premiums.
Right. So
this is in addition, above and beyond that. Right. No premium.
Visits to the primary, 0. So no copay. And that's not only for your annual visit, for your checkup, but it's also they call them issue visits. You're having an issue. You go to the primary. There's no copay for that. She saw 3 specialists, so 3 specialist visits a year.
At $20 a piece.
For 5 years.
That's $300.
Okay, and then, so Frank didn't, I didn't get from Frank the exact number of physical therapy visits that Lisa's had, but let's just say she had 10 physical therapy visits for that back issue at $20 a visit. That's how much the copay for physical therapy is as well.
So that would be $200. So Lisa would have spent $500 over the last 5 years versus almost $13,000 that she spent in premium.
And for everyone that's doing the math at home, or maybe you're trying to check which is always valid, we did not include premium increases over the last 5 years. So I just said $190 plus the $22.10 for the prescription drug plan over 5 years gives us $12,726. We know that it was actually more than that because Lisa's premium's up to $225 in the upcoming year. So we're really lowballing this a little bit, but that's okay because the numbers are still incredible. So let's get there.
And speaking about numbers being incredible, the 12,726 number, that doesn't include any of the extra benefits she could have received. We're just using the 2025 numbers. We're trying to completely lowball this.
Right. So let's use the 2025 numbers for the main extra benefits that people use.
Well, she could have received a $2,000 benefit for the last 5 years.
Of dental.
Of dental.
Which is about $10,000 a year.
$275 a year for eyewear for the last 5 years.
So that's another $1,375.
I love this one. $60 a quarter in over-the-counter benefits.
For 5 years, that's $1,200. That's $1,200 of sinus medication, toothpaste, dental floss, all the things that you
got
Kleenex.
Your own drugstore at the house.
Exactly. So if we add up all the extra benefits you could be entitled to through Medicare, that's an additional $12,500 a year. I'm sorry, over the 5 years in savings.
So we basically have almost $13,000 in premium and another $12,500 in benefits. That could have been the premiums could have been saved. Eliminated, and the benefits could have been taken advantage of. That's like $25,000 of between savings and extra benefits.
But $25,300. But let's not forget, we need to subtract $500 from that to accommodate for the medical expenses that Lisa did have over the last 5 years.
You know, when you look at it like it's almost an accounting error against, that kind of the $25,000 number just jumps out at you when her true expenses under Medicare Advantage would have been $500. It's like, whoa.
I mean, so many people have the concern about Medicare Advantage, which is like, oh, it sounds nice when nothing's wrong. Lisa hasn't had any issues. That's great. But this math is what tells us that even when things do come up, even when issues arise, things that nobody wants to think about, cancer, heart attacks, ongoing issues that do have significant health, not only expenses around them, but require a lot of care. What Medicare Advantage allows you to do is save your money for the times you actually need to spend it. It gives you comprehensive coverage for the entire time that you're on it. You have medical, you have prescription, you also have extra benefits available to you, but it's going to give you the ability to say, I have full coverage, but I only pay for what I use. So for the last 5 years, Lisa could have saved nearly $25,000, not only in premium, but in out-of-pocket expenses, because the Medicare Advantage plans are going to offer you extra benefits that many of the supplements do not include for you, and certainly don't include for you at no extra charge. So even down the line, if Lisa hits a maximum out of pocket, and let's just say, so we can continue to keep the numbers relatively round, she saved $25,000 over the last 5 years. Her maximum out of pocket on an average Medicare Advantage plan is about $2,500. She pre-saved 10 years of maximum out of pockets. It's just going to keep going.
Absolutely, and I love the statistic that, you're only really going to hit your max out-of-pocket, statistically speaking, once every 7 years. With the supplement, I mean, me being a math guy, or I like to think I'm a math guy, I like to play the percentages. Well, this year I don't think is going to be the worst year of my life health-wise, so why am I front-running those costs with a supplement when I can cross my fingers and hope that this is not going to be the year I hit my max out of pocket? But if I do, I'll be no better or worse off than if I had paid this. It's going to be a wash either way. Well, so why incur those costs on the front end, I guess, is the way I look at it.
Well, let's look at it. Let's go all the way back to the beginning. If we remember, Lisa in 2020, when she joined Medicare, was paying $2,450 a year in premium. The maximum out of pocket on the Aetna Gold is $2,500 this year. Last year it was $2,400. In the past it's been as low as $2,300. So even from the very first day that Lisa joined Medicare, even in the worst case scenario, meaning she hit her maximum out of pocket, she would have saved $45 on the Aetna policy versus her supplement, because the maximum out of pocket was $2,500 versus the $2,450 that she was spending on the supplement. And then we come to find, after 5 years, she really only spent about $500 true dollars using those Medicare Advantage copays to determine, hey, what was the expense of the services that you received. So the math works when we look at it over a 20-plus year period, because the reality is for most people, you'll be on your Medicare coverage, supplement, or Medicare Advantage for more than 25 years, or for more than 20 years, rather. So we want to look at your coverage not just on a year-to-year basis, but what's the expense and what are the needed funds over a 20-plus year period. And with Medicare Advantage, the way that they have been able to create comprehensive policies that add extra benefits for you, that not only they're extra benefits that you want, but they're also extra benefits that help you maintain your health. Of course, the insurance companies are not benevolent. They're not doing it for, out of the kindness of their own heart. What they've realized is that if you regularly see the dentist, if you have eyewear and you are getting your eye exams regularly, if you have a free gym membership, if you have those over-the-counter things that you can, have the few extra bucks to afford, you don't have to wait till till you end up needing the doctor. All those things make you healthier, which make you less likely to need to use your coverage, which then saves the insurance company money as well.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you bring up a great point where, you could be on Medicare for at least 20 years, maybe even 30. I mean, we're just looking at a snapshot of a 5-year look back, and,
the numbers are incredible.
Right. I mean, Lisa has spent almost $13,000 in 5 years. You scale that up over 10 years, you're at $25,000. Now scale that up over 20. Now you're talking big money. So,
and that's, again, only premium. People aren't factoring in the extra benefits that actually are dollars out of your pocket if you don't have them. And as my dad likes to remind me anytime we talk about the supplement, you are on an escalator. Now, that escalator has been going up incrementally the whole time you've been on it at a reasonable rate of between 3 and 5%. That's all set to change starting this year, where we're going to start to see premium increases that are closer to 7, 8, maybe even more. Right. Year over year. So, over a 10-year period, your premium, if it would just say nice round number 7%, 70% over 10 years.
10 years. I mean, it was already expensive. As Lisa illustrates, $25,000 scaled up over 10 years is what, now add in a 7% year over year rider on top of that. I mean, it is, I would rather just play the math of, what, I don't think this year is going to be my worst year. And even if it is, I don't want to front run those costs.
Let's get to our texts.
And our first texter writes, I will be relocating to St. Charles area in November 29th. Can I still apply for a 2024 plan with Aetna that will carry on into 2025? I already have 2 appointments set up in the new location. Do you think I will be able to get a new card with a new plan that quick?
Yes, I absolutely do. So you'll want to apply if you're moving November 29th, then you'll want to apply sometime in November so you can have December 1st coverage of your new policy with Aetna, if that's who you've elected. All of Aetna's policies in St. Charles that are currently available for 2024 are going to be available in 2025. You'll receive 1 month of the 2024 benefits. So that also means if you have it, you have 1 month to spend $1,200. If you're using the Gold Advantage, for example, with Aetna, the Gold plan, the HMO, you've got $1,200 of a fitness benefit to use. You've got your quarterly benefit. It's $120 this year of over-the-counter benefit that you'll want to use. You've got $3,750 of dental. I don't know if you want to do all that in 1 month, but like
let them enjoy Thanksgiving.
Exactly. Well, this is December 1st, and Thanksgiving, that's all soft.
There are leftovers.
Thanksgiving's all mush. You got like stuffing, mashed potatoes. This is a perfect time for a dental rehaul. But anyway, if you join an Aetna policy in the St. Charles County area, which are identical to the St. Louis County ones as well, you'll get all of the 2024 benefits through Aetna for the last month of December, and then your plan will automatically renew to the new benefits for 2025. The other nice thing is you mentioned that you've got 2 appointments set up at the new location. I'm not sure if those are in December or sometime later, maybe January or February. Once you have your ID card with the new plan, your member number is not going to change from year to year. So if you get the November 2024 card, and you don't have to wait for the mail, you can actually, if you're working with someone like Frank, if you're working with Frank, then he will be able to provide you with the member number and all of the important information that your physician will need for your health, to register your health insurance with your doctor at the new location. So he'll be able to get that to you before it comes in the mail. Your member number isn't going to change from year to year, so if there's a delay in getting you the 2025 card, you can still show 2024, and they'll be able to determine what your new benefits are because your ID number will remain the same, so they'll see that you're still active. You've just got the old card.
And just as a reminder, anyone on the 2024 plans, as most of our listeners are, you want to take advantage of all those benefits before the calendar year is up. You're entitled to them. You paid for them, so let's suck them all down. If you have any fitness benefit left, now is a good time to put some eyes on some things that you can take advantage of. Over-the-counter benefits, certainly want to take advantage of that. As my wife said, the dental. You don't want to mess up your mouth too bad, but if you have a cleaning or just anything that you can get before that year is out, now is the time to really think about doing it.
Great point. And now is the time, if you have any questions about Medicare Advantage, about open enrollment in general, maybe you heard that there's a $2,000 cap on prescriptions next year, you have questions, you can always give us a call, 314-931-5877 or 84126 on the text line. If you're looking, like Rob just mentioned, for a review of your Medicare coverage, give us a call, 314-863-0008, or jump on the website, jblfinancial.com, click on the Contact Us section and say, I'd like a Medicare review. And Kelly, our office manager, will get back to you Monday morning when she's back in the office, get a day and time set up for you to chat with Frank.
And our last texter writes, Grandma is reluctant to have asset protection on her rather large estate. She is concerned she would be turned away from a facility of her choice if she shows up with no assets and just Medicaid. Can facilities decline to accept a Medicaid-only person?
Facilities have dedicated Medicaid beds. They generally have a certain number of them per facility if they're accepting Medicaid. So they don't turn away people, but they might be all full. So there are some limitations on access to facilities for Medicaid patients. So if you're a private pay individual, most of the time you have your pick of whatever you'd like. They'll give you a bed. You're paying full cost. If you are someone that's on Medicaid, then a facility will be available for you, but it might not be the one that you might not have any availability there. No room at the inn, so to speak.
Gotcha. And with that, I think we should take our first break of the hour. So there's no limits to calling and texting the show. So by all means, keep those texts and calls coming and don't touch that dial. We'll be back with more Straight Talk on Retirement after these messages.
Now, back to Straight Talk on Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are Jeff and Erin Lapidus.
Well, welcome back to the show. Another great Medicare discussion, guys. I know our listeners really do appreciate that, so do our clients as well. While we're waiting for your calls and texts, 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the text line. I did want to have a discussion with our listeners today about a coaching session that I had with one of our clients. His name is George, this week, about what sources of funds we would recommend in helping him cover the payments for a new automobile. And this is certainly not an unusual conversation to have, whether it's for an automobile or any other type of obligation. He told me that after his trade-in, that he was going to owe approximately $30,000 on the vehicle. He wasn't very keen on taking the money out of his IRA account because we would have had to basically increase that for taxes or taking out $36,000 instead of $30,000. And So his question was, Jeff, what other options do I have or ones that I can consider? The car payment, just for fun here, was going to run approximately $600 per month for 5 years.
Cars are expensive.
I was going to say that's cheaper than I thought. So the average now is $750. So $750. It's crazy.
Expensive. Well, let's talk about George. George has a Roth IRA of $80,000, and we know that any withdrawal that he would make from that account would be income tax free, assuming that the account was over 5 years, which it was.
And he's over 59 and a half.
Yes,
which he is.
Which he is. Thank you. He also has a home equity line of credit available, which he's already secured from his current existing home. And if we were to use that, obviously he doesn't have to increase that for taxes, but the monthly payments would run him approximately $285 per month based on today's interest rates. And again, that's because home equity loans have a 10-year amortization.
Versus the 5-year on the car note.
Absolutely. And also, we're making an assumption here that interest rates don't rise, and they could. So, again, we know that.
Right, because home equity lines can float. You can secure it, but many of them have a floating rate, especially if you just have it open and you aren't actually using it at the moment.
So, we've talked about we don't want to make an IRA withdrawal, at least a lump sum. Certainly, he could obviously do monthly payments, monthly amounts to match that. We also talked about he has a home equity line, he has a Roth. One other asset he also had was a non-qualified annuity.
He does, and that has a guaranteed withdrawal benefit rider, creating $8,000 gross or $7,200 per year. So that's almost dollar for dollar his exact annualized car payment.
And the reason that the non-qualified annuity has taxes involved is because they're going to tax the distribution.
Right, over and above his basis. Now, in his particular case, he had deposited $60,000 initially into the annuity contract. It's grown, and that the contractual guaranteed withdrawal benefit base allowance is approximately $136,000.
This is it, right? And this is in his particular contract based on what he agreed upon with the insurance company several years ago.
And the big deal here is, we think, is matching taxable withdrawals with payments.
Okay.
So in this case, what we could do is we could turn off the faucet on the annuity rider after the car is paid for. Mm. And again, what's nice is that because this is a contractual obligation, the insurance company's backing this. And so, in other words, we think that it's pretty secure over that period of time.
So you're saying that for the 5 years, he could make that $7,200 net with $8,000 withdrawal, pay the taxes, get $7,200, be able to make his car payments for 5 years, and then if there's no additional income needs that arise, he could say, let's just leave that money in there again. We don't need to take the withdrawals anymore.
Yes, and the interest would continue to grow income tax deferred. Now, getting a little more specific, the first $76,000, which obviously we weren't going to pull out that much, of the contract would be taxable because that's the income part. And we know the IRS says you have to pull the income part first before you get to go at your principal. And so withdrawing any interest would then reduce any income tax liability also for beneficiaries if they were to inherit this IRA should George pass
So this
away.
is one of those non-qualified assets that does not get a step-up in basis at the date of the owner's death. So the beneficiaries are still going to owe taxes. However, they are only going to owe taxes on what George didn't pay taxes on. So if there was still interest inside the contract, they'll pay taxes on that. George's basis would still be his beneficiary's basis.
So he's doing his beneficiaries a giant favor by sucking down some of that interest.
And who knows, they might even get a real nice car out of it, too.
There you go. The reason that I brought up this example today is that it isn't unusual for us to see clients that will purchase these type of savings contracts issued by insurance companies. Because the key feature here is when you're using after-tax money is that the interest continues to grow, income tax deferred in these contracts, which it tends to be reasonably attractive because the interest rates, especially on a fixed annuity, are very similar, if not usually exceeding what interest you could be earning inside of a CD or a money market account.
You're getting that interest for for longer, and you have a little bit of flexibility with the withdrawal corridor that you don't get with a CD.
Yes, and also in some cases, what you also can do is you can choose the period of time that you would like the interest to be guaranteed for. 3 years, 5 years, etc. Or you could use a variable annuity, which is an investment-based contract. Assets can go up, down, etc.
There are many varieties of annuities that are available.
Exactly. But again, using these contracts in maybe a non-traditional way can also help folks deal with their long-term needs.
Well, because what we find, especially in George's case, what happens with those annuities that are purchased with after-tax dollars for that exact purpose, which is I can get tax-deferred growth from them, we find that when it's time to consider using those assets, it's revealed or it's reminded to the clients that, hey, we got to pull the interest first, so that's taxable. Well, now there's a new, even though it's grown over time, we still have taxable assets to deal with if we want to create income from them. So then clients decide, let's just keep holding that. And what many people end up doing is creating additional taxes for their beneficiaries. So in many cases, it makes sense to say, hey, let's take advantage of that tax-deferred growth, but then let's also meet an income need with some of that, because until we get back to the basis inside of those contracts, it's very similar to pulling money out of an IRA. Everything that comes out of that account is going to be taxable till you get back to your basis, just like everything coming from a traditional IRA is going to be taxable to you. So if we can swap one for the other for a certain amount of time, as long as George isn't 73 years old yet, he's not required to take distributions. If we're pulling money from this contract, then it's going to be the same as an IRA distribution. We could swap one for the other and not impact taxes.
Yes.
Awesome.
Oh.
Well, you know what? We gave people enough time to really think about those Medicare questions.
Woo-hoo.
So let's give them a few.
And our next text writes, in April, I signed up for Medicare and got the card, and I didn't sign up for Part D because I'm still employed with an employer with more than 20 employees. I'm hearing that I should not have done this and will be penalized for this. Or is it okay? I think you're going to be okay.
You are going to be okay. So if you signed up for Medicare in April, if you have a card that says your Medicare Part A benefits with your date on it, then you're just fine. If you signed up for Medicare and it says Medicare Part A and Medicare Part B and you have dates, my recommendation is that you terminate your Medicare coverage. You return the card and say that you would like to decline your coverage for now, because if you are working for an employer that has more than 20 employees, you are not going to be penalized for not having taken Medicare. You didn't need to do that. You're not going to be penalized if you don't have your Part D coverage. You already have prescription drug coverage. The standard is that if you are turning 65 and you have coverage through your employer, or you have coverage through your spouse because they have coverage through their employer, and that employer has more than 20 employees, you do not have to elect Medicare benefits. When you retire or when your spouse retires and it's time to elect Medicare, you will be able to provide the government with a form it's called your request for employment information, and it also works for your spouse. And it'll say you were on the coverage from the day you turned 65 with your employer or your spouse's employer until the day they or you left and you lost coverage. Medicare will then waive any penalties that would have been assessed against you. All that Medicare wants is that for everyone turning 65, if they don't have qualified coverage, which would be anyone on individual coverage, anyone that is on coverage with an employer that has less than 20 employees, anyone on COBRA, anyone utilizing those Christian care networks that give you coverage through a consortium of sorts. Those are not considered qualified coverage through Medicare. If you're incarcerated, that is not considered qualified coverage, even though it's state coverage. So those are the main things that are not qualified. Medicare wants you to enroll at 65, or they're going to penalize you because you are disproportionately affecting the risk pool. They don't want you to just enroll in Medicare when you need something. They want you, just like every other insurance company, even though this is government coverage, to participate in the expense for everyone that's already creating expenses. That's essentially the reason that these penalties are created. You don't have to worry about a Part D penalty. You don't have to worry about having enrolled in Medicare. And honestly, if you have enrolled in Medicare Part B, you are paying a premium that you are not getting any benefit out of. So I would recommend that you not give the government that money. So
there you have it.
Right. We've got a few more.
And our next texter writes, I didn't realize until listening recently that my dental coverage of $3,200 really only comes into play above the covered cleanings, x-rays, and fillings. Crowns, yes, but next year, no implants. Is that correct?
That is correct. No longer will any of the Medicare Advantage plans that cover dental cover implants. This was really unique and I think a loophole that many of the insurance companies missed because private dental does not cover implants. So if you had a Delta Dental or coverage through work, it was not covering implants. When a lot of Medicare Advantage plans went to the reimbursement style, they lifted all the restrictions and just said, as long as it comes from a dentist office, this bill will pay for it. You just got to send the bill in the right amount of time, be on the plan, all of those things. And now they've realized they want to contain some of these costs. So many of the plans have cut dental above and beyond what they would consider preventative. So preventative dental is cleaning, exams, x-rays. Comprehensive dental would be anything above and beyond that. Many of the plans have cut comprehensive dental, only leaving the preventative. All of the plans have cut dental from their, have cut the implants from their dental.
It's unfortunate. Our next texter writes, I have United Healthcare PPO now looking at their HMO. Can you tell me the benefits?
So the first thing that we should discuss is what is the primary difference between the HMO and the PPO?
PPO has both in and out of network availability.
That's right. So that means you can see doctors that both accept the plan, those will be in network, and you can also see doctors that are out of the network that have not agreed to the plan. You will pay different prices, but you have equal access. With the United Healthcare options, you don't have to worry about referrals across the HMO and the PPO, right?
Yes.
The PPO has that higher maximum out of pocket. The two HMOs with United Healthcare have lower maximum out of pockets for you.
And that's customary among almost all PPOs are going to have that higher max out of pocket because it's the trade-off of being able to see who you want.
Absolutely. Now, the differences between, I think I can make this very simple. The United Healthcare, I'm a little shocked by United Healthcare this year because usually they are number one in the marketing department. They're always coming up with new slogans. They're always the front runner on a lot of these things. They really kind of lazed out this year, and instead of naming their policies, it's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So they really didn't get very creative, which is fine. But the main difference between the HMO ST4 and the HMO ST3 is that the HMO ST4 has all the extra benefits in it. It's got $4,000 worth of dental. It's got $300 in the eyewear department. It has money for hearing aids. It's got over-the-counter benefits that are more substantial than the ST3. And its maximum out-of-pocket, therefore, is a little bit higher at $3,300 a year.
Still pretty reasonable.
You're getting $4,000 of dental, and it is reasonable. It's very in line because if we look at the HMO ST3, you don't really have a lot of the extra benefits. So, for example, you've got $1,000 of dental instead of $4,000. You still have $300 for the eyewear. You've got only $45 per quarter for the over-the-counter versus $120 per quarter. So they're stripping away some of the extra benefits, and there is a copay on the second tier of prescriptions. So Tier 1, 0 across the board. Tier 2 on the ST3 is $6 versus 0 on the ST4. So and the maximum out of pocket on the ST3 is $2,800. So
you have a little bit more liability with the ST4, but if I'm hearing you correctly, it sounds like the extra benefits more than make up for that.
I 100% agree with you. And just to, as a very general statement, you'll want to review all of the benefits before you make a final decision. ST4, slightly higher maximum out of pocket, but significantly more benefits in terms of the extra benefits. And the prescription drug plan's a little tiny bit better if you're on a tier 2 medication. And then ST3, lower maximum out of pocket, little bit more expense on the prescriptions if you're on that tier 2, and less extra benefits. And,
we never start a review by looking at the extra benefits first.
Right.
We always begin our Medicare search with what are you taking and who are you seeing? And then we work backwards, if depending on what you're taking and who you're seeing, what plan is covering that, then we begin to work backwards. Okay, of the ones that are covering what you're taking and who you're seeing at the lowest possible price environment, now let's take a look at those extra benefits.
And so
it all works back from the medical part. I know we spend a lot of time on the extra benefits, but it all segues off what you're taking, who you're seeing, and getting that right first before we move on from that.
And before we take our last break of the hour, I just want to make mention, if you are going in on your own and you want to make this comparison, my recommendation is to go to Medicare.gov. You can put in just your zip code and go in as a guest, and you click you'd like to look at Medicare Advantage plans. You can limit your search to United Healthcare. There are filters at the top for you. And then you can click on both the ST3 and ST4 and say, I want a comparison. And then you'll get a nice side-by-side of those two plans with all of the benefits lined up for you. It's a little difficult to go through each benefit line on the radio. Having all those numbers in your head is probably hard to listen to. So being able to see it lined up next to each other will probably be of great benefit to you. Medicare.gov is a trusted source for that information. So you're not going to a third party to get it. You're getting it directly from the feed from the insurance company into the government website.
And we just have a quick follow-up. ST3, how much did you say the dental was?
$1,000.
Got $1,000.
All right, let's take our last break of this hour and the show. We'll be right back to answer any more of your questions. Keep them coming, 314-931-5877 or 84126 on the text line. We'll be right back.
Let's talk about smart choices for your money. It's Straight Talk and Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Erin Lapidus.
Well, 10:52, we're back for our last segment of Straight Talk on retirement. I'm Jeff Lapidus, the retirement coach.
I'm Erin Lapidus, the retirement coach.
I'm Robert Markham, your fixed annuities and life insurance sales specialist.
And we are willing, waiting, and wanting to answer your questions at 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the text line. It's curious because as we see our clients' accounts improving because they are invested in the market, some of them, to some extent. Can't talk about that too much in detail. They start thinking about the kids.
Do they?
Yes, in many cases they're talking about, I think I'd like to take advantage of the annual gift tax exclusion.
I would love
Quit
for
staring at me so intently.
I would love for you to take advantage of the annual gift tax exclusion. And I would like to be generous. I think you should take advantage of it for Jody, too.
Well, that's nice.
Jody's my sister, everyone.
I'm glad that you resemble that remark. And Rob's licking his chops over there, too, because we know that when you're married, you get to double the exclusion.
Because there's two of us.
Exactly. And we know that for 2024, the gift tax exclusion is $18,000 per person.
So that means, wait a minute, this is great. That means you, Dad, you can gift me $18,000.
And so can your mom.
And Mom can, and then you could gift Rob $18,000.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves
and
here.
Mom could also gift Rob $18,000.
And then you could also buy lunch this evening or dinner this evening, which would be nice too.
You know what?
That sounds like a good trade-off.
That is a fantastic trade-off.
You haven't seen what I'm going to order, so it's so what's kind of nice here is that you can give up to the $18,000 limit to human beings, as many as you want, without the need to file a gift tax return. And again, as we talked about, if you're married, you may, if the person that is you want to give money to is married, you can actually double that, do 36. What's important here is that gifts that are made to individuals are also not tax deductible by you.
So you're not able to take a deduction?
Never.
So although it feels charitable to gift to your children, it is not actually charity.
Okay, so when you have children, you'll know what that feeling really is. But I will tell you, it is nice. And you don't have to hold out on me either anymore, okay? And never taxable to the recipients. You know I did this segment, right?
So I could make all these fantastic jokes?
Because I've been getting a lot of Team Jeff feedback because they're calling me, Jeff, had the first grandkid. Sorry, don't be mad at me. Okay. Well, what can be excluded from gifts? The general rule is that any gift is a taxable gift. However, there are many exceptions to that rule. And here's a couple of them. Gifts that are not more than the annual exclusion for the calendar year. Don't have to file a gift tax return.
Or how about this one? Tuition or medical expenses you pay for someone. The education and medical exclusions.
Those are good ones as well. Gifts that you make to your spouse, which in many cases aren't really considered gifts, but there is an unlimited amount of gifts you can make during lifetime and at death to a spouse. And also gifts to a political organization for its use.
I like how they worked that one in there.
There you go. Of course, because the government writes the rules. In addition to this, gifts that are paid to qualified charities are deductible from the value of the gifts made. So gifts that are made in excess of the annual exclusion can be applied to your lifetime gift tax exclusion, which is now in excess of $12 million per person. And therefore, there's no gift tax due at the time that you make a gift, and or even if you make a gift that's in excess of the $18,000 and you file a return, you don't have to pay taxes then either. As long as you file it correctly. One question that we're also often asked is, what if I sell property that has been given to me? Well, that's easy peasy, right? If the donor is alive at the time of the gift, the general rule is that your basis in that property is the same as their basis. So as an example, if I had a property that I paid, let's say stock, I paid $10,000 for stock. I gifted it to Erin. She got up off the floor and said, "Thank you, Dad."
Why, thank you, Dad.
Okay, thank you. And so what would happen is if she went and sold that stock, she would have to pay taxes on any value above the $10,000.
And the same rule applies to a home. So if you gifted Erin and I a $200,000 home and your cost basis was $20,000, we inherited your cost basis.
Would you pinch and wake him up, okay? Yes. The answer is that's correct.
Well, we were just considering our options for these gifts.
I appreciate that. I love your creativity, honey.
Wouldn't it be smarter to, if you planned on leaving real estate to the person, just to leave it to them at your eventual demise so they get that step up?
Well, and that would really apply to all property. That's correct, because at death, property steps up to the fair market value of the donor at the date of death. And we especially see this being useful with mutual funds. We know that many of our clients that come to us, they've been other places before, and the cost basis data may not necessarily have been shared to the next custodian. So when we get this property, it's called, guess what? We don't know how much they paid for it. They don't remember how much they paid for it.
The IRS remembers, though.
No, they don't.
They count it as zero.
Well, that's right. They make you tell them what to do. So they make you provide them with the information. So it's easier at that point than to wait until death. I call that dead weight. Hold the asset. Then at death, it goes to fair market value. So that's kind of the front end of how about gifts. Again, as a summary, gifts are never tax deductible unless they're done to a charity. Never to individuals. You have an $18,000 limit per person. If you're married, you can double that because you're both making a gift. That's $36,000.
And it's never taxable to the recipient.
Gifts are never taxable to the recipient. And by the way, we hear that a lot in coaching sessions. We'd love to see you if you're over 55 and older, within 5 years of retirement, would like to retire. Give us a call, 314-863-0008. Again, 314-863-0008. See you next week.
The opinions voiced in this show are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, and financial advisor or tax advisor prior to investing. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice offered through Private Advisor Group, a registered investment advisor. Private Advisor Group and JBL Financial Services, Inc. are separate entities from LPL Financial.